the shadow over Maddie. The baby monitor crackled to life at exactly 2:47 a.m. That in itself wasn't unusual. Maddie, at just 8 months old, had a habit of restless nights. What was unusual was the voice that came through. Not the soft babble of an infant, but a low guttural whisper. "She's awake." Rachel sat bolt upright in bed, her heart a hammer in her chest. She grabbed her husband's arm. "David, did you hear that?" David groaned, barely stirring. "Probably interference," he muttered, pulling the blanket over his head. Rachel wasn't so sure. She stared at the glowing monitor on the bedside table, her fingers trembling as she adjusted the volume. Static hissed, and then a faint sound emerged. Laughter. Maddie's high-pitched giggles. Relief washed over her. Just the baby. But then came another voice. A man's voice. "Hello, Maddie." Rachel froze. Her blood turned to ice. The voice was calm, almost friendly, but it didn't belong. She leapt out of bed, grabbing the baby monitor and straining to hear. The laughter had stopped. Silence pressed in. Rachel hesitated for only a moment before rushing to Maddie's room. The door creaked open, and the faint glow of the nightlight painted the walls in soft, shifting hues. Maddie lay in her crib, tiny fists clutching her blanket, her chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm of sleep. Everything looked normal. Perfect, even. Rachel stepped closer, the baby monitor still clutched tightly in her hand. She scanned the room, her eyes darting to every corner. Nothing. And then, "Mommy's here," the voice whispered, directly into her ear. Rachel screamed and spun around, but the room was empty. The door was still slightly ajar, swaying gently as if moved by a breeze that didn't exist. She bolted back to Maddie's crib, scooping the baby into her arms. "David!" she shouted, but her voice cracked under the weight of her fear. "David, wake up!" Footsteps thundered down the hall as David appeared, bleary-eyed and alarmed. "What's going on?" "Someone's here," Rachel cried, clutching Maddie tightly. "I heard them. They spoke to her. To me." David checked the locks, the windows, even the closets. Nothing was out of place. He tried to reassure her, but Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. That night, she refused to leave Maddie's side. She set up a chair next to the crib, rocking gently as Maddie slept. She stared at the baby monitor, her ears straining for any sound beyond the soft hum of static. Hours passed, and exhaustion began to claim her. Just as her eyelids fluttered shut, the monitor crackled again. "Rachel." Her name, spoken in that same calm, chilling voice. Her eyes flew open. Maddie stirred in her crib, a small whimper escaping her lips. Rachel reached for her, but something stopped her hand midair. A shadow, not hers, not David's. It stretched across the crib, tall and thin, growing darker, more defined. And then she saw it. Two gleaming eyes, reflecting the pale light of the room. They blinked, slowly, deliberately. The shadow twisted, taking form, a figure looming over her daughter, its head tilted unnaturally, as if studying them both. "She's mine now," it whispered. Rachel screamed, lunging for Maddie. The shadow dissolved, vanishing into nothingness as she pulled her daughter close. David burst into the room moments later, his face pale as he tried to calm her. But Rachel knew what she saw, what she heard, and she knew it wasn't over. The next morning, she packed a bag. "We're leaving," she told David, her voice trembling but resolute. "I don't care where we go, but we can't stay here." David, still skeptical but unable to argue with her fear, agreed. By noon, the house was silent, empty. But as the last box was loaded into the car, the baby monitor, left forgotten on the kitchen counter, crackled to life one final time. "Goodbye, Maddie," the voice said, soft and mocking. "I'll see you soon."